Hey everyone, sorry for the absence. This is Military Gun Guy welcoming you back to my channel. I'm actually going to start being a lot more active on it. I'm actually going to be showing you guys a bunch of stuff that I have in the works right now. Projects kind of mid-project, wood stuff, pretty much you name it. I'm also going to be going over some of the history of some of the guns that I've acquired as of recent, so give you kind of like a heads up or a background on what you might be working on. So today we have an 1891 Italian Carcano. This is the Troop Special. These were actually ready-made carbines. These were not cut down Model 91 rifles cut down into carbines. The way you can tell is that if you look at the front band, it's basically cut out and made just for this, as opposed to them shortening it and whatnot. So these were issued to what was called the Troop Special. So these were issued to special troops, probably like cooks and truck drivers and guys that didn't necessarily want to field the long 1891 rifle or the I believe it was the M41 rifle. They got these, and there are a bunch of different variants of these. You've seen a bunch of the folding bayonet ones also on the various online shopping venues for guns. It fires a 6.5 Carcano cartridge. It is Mannlicher style. It's loaded from a stripper clip that falls out the bottom. If that broke it. The Carcano round is actually hard to find. You can reload your own, which I do. I kind of like the nostalgic, so I actually ended up finding some round nose bullets from Hornady and rounded and loaded my own. You can also, they do very well with cast bullets. It's a 6-shot integral magazine. These are pretty basic. You can tell it's empty. There's no bullets in it. Nothing's going to come flying at us. This one I got locally here in Las Vegas. There was a guy that had it listed on one of the sites that I frequent, and it was a great price. He was a nice guy. We worked out a horse trade, and everybody walked away with something that they wanted. This one is in the metal is actually in great shape. It's got patent on it and whatnot, but there's really not a lot of pitting. The stock is actually pretty thrashed. This rifle has seen better days, but the numbers match. Oops, that's my reloader thing. The numbers match, and if you look, you can probably actually see one of the original Arsenal stamps. Let me turn that way. There's the original number there, plus some of the other Arsenal sub-stamps. This rifle was made in, or carbine was made in 1918. It is a Brescia. Push this forward. The year of manufacture is there. Again, I don't know if you can see it. Let's focus on there. And then the Arsenal manufacturer is there, which is Brescia. And then there's the serial number there. These were imported by, looks like PW Arms in Redmond, Washington. So they actually ended up putting their own serial number and whatnot, which is what they ended up using to transfer it. I believe these are Beech, or maybe even, actually, I'm sorry, these are Italian walnut stocks. Like I said, this stock has seen better days. And in the next video, I'm going to go over what I'm going to do to try to restore the stock and get the stock back to as close to 100% as possible. Again, it is the original stock to the rifle. These originally were solid stock rifles, and then they came up with different directives. Mainly, they added the sling swivel on the bottom, and then they cut this area out. They did a side swivel. So they modified these rifles as they needed over the years to serve the Italian army. Like I said, this one's not too bad. It needs decent amount of woodwork. The front sling is loose. They're not super hard to take apart, and they're really not hard to maintain. Parts are not super hard to find, but they're not that easy, especially these types of stocks. These stocks are almost impossible to find without being sporterized. This looks like, I believe it's a predecessor to the Model 38, which looked similar, but the barrel bands are different and the configuration is different. But basically, they had different variants of the same rifle, but the variations were actually quite small. You really couldn't actually tell without actually knowing. I actually have a Carcano book that's very informative and has millions of pictures and whatnot, and I'll get into my cavalry carbine another time. It's a folding front sight, folding actually, I guess. It's kind of cool because it basically actually you push this button in, and that's I guess at 0 or right at probably like 100 yards, 100 meters, and then this actually locks into the recess in the top handguard. So what we're going to do with this one, since these have historical value. Yes, this is my rifle. Yes, people are like, hey, don't refinish it, but this rifle deserves to go back to its heyday. What I'm going to end up doing is taking it apart. I'll show you how to take it apart. I'm going to show you what I do to clean and restore the stocks and try to get a lot of these dents. It's really super dented, just from storage, probably being thrown around quite a bit. So I'm going to try to get this thing back to about as close to original as possible. They're very easy to maintain, very easy to break down. And give me 1 second, I'll get a screwdriver and I'll show you. Okay, so we're back with the M91 Troop Special. So the bolt goes in obviously like a normal bolt action, 6-shot bolt action rifle. So you pull up, back, and what you're actually going to do is you're actually going to pull the trigger. I'm trying to put this on camera. Pull the trigger, this slides right out. We'll get to the disassembly of that in a little bit. The cleaning rod, that's going to be difficult because this thing has been in there for probably forever. Come out this way. You basically unscrew it to the left, tighten it to the right, unscrews, pulls straight out. Not in terrible shape. We're probably going to end up doing is we're going to boil the stock, and then we're going to do probably a combination of chemical stripper on the wood. I use the Vaporust on the wood. I'm sorry, on the metal. I use a Vaporust, and then we will do a light bead blast, and then from there we'll start polishing it out and do a rust blue on it to bring it back to original. So the cleaning rod is out, and then you're going to get your screwdriver. You're going to unscrew the front band, get a thicker bit. You're going to unscrew the front band. There's just one screw that runs right through the stock that holds the front band in place. Sometimes on these you have to tap them out from the other side, but we'll see what this one, if it cooperates. And these screw heads are pretty stripped. Typically on most military rifles the screw heads are soft, so you'll have to do some work on those as well, and I'll show you how to do that. And of course this thing doesn't really want to come out because it wants to be an asshole. There it goes. So it's out. It's just probably actually might even be bent a little bit. So I'm just going to pop that out. So straight out like that. This piece comes off, and then this piece should just slide right off. There you go. So there is your front band for the Carcano rifle. This will pop right off. This looks like it's in good shape, probably original. And then we are going to take the rear action screws out. The nice thing about Carcanos is that they weren't really marked all that much. There is your Mannlicher style magazine. Like I said, holds 6 rounds. The clip goes in the top and actually pushes this down. This shoves it forward. This locks in place. And then if you decide to eject the clip, you just push this button in and actually just drops it right out the bottom. This was an issue obviously in World War I as well, where stuff would get up inside. Apparently the Italians figured that it wasn't that big of a deal in order to, and brought the design over to World War II. So this thing has some pitting on it. Not terrible. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if I can get a better focus on that. But there's some light pitting, which is typical on these military surplus rifles, mainly because the wood attracts water. These things weren't really actually stored very well, and they basically just go straight to shit. The trigger comes out fairly easily. It's a little pin. You can see it right there. Maybe. That pulls straight out, and your trigger pops out from the bottom like that. Okay, so I fast forwarded on the disassembly, leaving a few key points. That side sling is kind of interesting. It's actually held by a simple nut. This actually goes through the stock, my glasses on. There's like a guard right there, or shield for the threads, and then this screws on, and that holds it on the side. Like I said, pretty straightforward. This thing, I actually got the rear one out with the rear of the clip ejector or clip release. This thing is completely stuck, so I've soaked it in Kroil. I'm hoping maybe after 24 hours I can probably get in there. I'm going to have to replace that screw too because it's completely stripped out. Again, most military rifle screws, as robust as they may be, typically will have very soft screws, so you have to be very careful with your with what you use to take them apart. I'm not... Yeah, I'll probably actually take this rear side off as well. There's a couple of screws. Should, keeping the operative word, come right off, and then I can properly restore it that way. Like I said, we're going to bead blast this thing, and then, or actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to chemically strip it with some evaporust, which will get all the rust and all the crap off of it, and then I will hit it with the bead blaster, and then from there I'll be able to really even out the finish, make it look really nice, and bring it back to its former glory. This stock, as can be expected, has seen some better days. This whole piece broke out. Normally I would say on something like this to keep the pieces, but this is so far rotted out and so thrashed that we're going to actually have to put a whole new piece in there, and I'll show you guys how to do that and literally make it as good as new. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. There's some cracks and whatnot. I see these little dents on stocks. I don't know if that was done by a soldier in the field. I do see them quite a bit, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but these are pretty straightforward, not actually a lot of parts on them. To take apart the Carcano bolt, you'll see there's a little, actually take the bolt, normally the bolt will be like this, take it and just very carefully rotate it, put it there. So what you're going to want to do is there's like a little, almost like a little nipple you'll see right there on the end, okay, and then you're going to push that down. You don't need a lot of force, just push it down. You're going to unscrew the cocking piece, which is, I'm going to assume that's what they call it. And then this comes right off, and then this piece comes off eventually. There's actually a little groove in there that this fits in, so if you see the little sort of like little tit on there, you're going to push that forward, you're going to go into that groove forward and then kind of move it over. So to take it apart there, you're going to push it in and out. Firing pin comes out, firing pin spring. Pretty straightforward. What I love about these things is just the amount of little arsenal stamps and shit on them. You can see there's an arsenal stamp there. I believe it's Pietro Beretta, or maybe that one up there. On the top of here, there's actually a small arsenal stamp. The front of this actually doesn't have, probably has a stamp, a small stamp somewhere. Realistically, the Italians weren't that crazy about marking their guns. There is also a small arsenal stamp there, or inspector's mark, generally made by the arsenal that made the rifle. So the next step is going to be repairing the stock. This is going to be the worst. Rust bluing is pretty straightforward, but this stock has seen better days. There's a lot of different ways and a lot of different thought processes on how to clean a stock. A lot of people have said, you know, easy off, which is okay, except for it tends to attack the wood. You can wrap the rifle in a dark plastic bag, leave it out in the sun. If you live in a hot climate, it'll get all the cosmoline out. This rifle has a lot of compression on it. There's a lot of compression, there's a lot of little damage and stuff in there. So what we actually need to do is get this rifle stock as clean as possible. I'm going to boil it in Purple Power. I have a specially made tank that I'm going to use, that I put this in and basically boil it. And it actually, a lot of times with the boiling, believe it or not, it doesn't, at least in my experience, has not ruined any of these arsenal stamps. It will actually bring them up nicely. There is, if you can see, there was a stamp there, but when the Italians redid this rifle, they carved that out, so there's only a part of that. But there is the original serial and then the letter prefixes. So what I'm hoping is that when we get this rifle in the degreaser, let it boil for about 10 minutes. It'll pull all that crap out. It'll leave the wood completely bone dry. You'll end up with something that ideally looks like this, that you can start cleaning and refinishing and going from there. But it'll also hopefully pick up and push all these compression marks up, because this thing is, like I said, it's seen better days, and I'm hoping that the boiling actually will pull the dents out as much as possible. If there's a gouge It may swell the gouge a little bit, but it really won't do much for gouges. Compression marks and dents and whatnot typically will do well with boiling and whatnot. So when we come back, I will boil it and show you the end result.